Hey you, are you a wannabe traveler, starting out traveler, or even someone who's pretty well traveled and likes to encourage others to travel? In any of those cases, basically anybody interested in going abroad outside of this country of ours, which for me is the United States. If you're watching from somewhere else, oh my gosh, hi! But, anyways, I think that this is just a very important sort of concept to be putting out there now that travel is such a big deal and everybody's wanting to do it, and there's also this trending thing going on for female solo travel. So, I should probably introduce myself before we get any farther. My name is Olivia. For right now, I'm enjoying learning how to make some little storytime content about all the trips I've been on. I have been to over 20 countries abroad. I have stayed in some for just 24 hours, some for months. And so I felt like it was worth putting my little 2 cents in about this subject, which is going to be safety as a female traveler, especially a solo female traveler. I want to, before we get too far into this, put up a trigger warning. So if you feel like you're not in a good place or space to be listening to content that has some essay themes, I'll put that up in big letters on the screen right now. This is your opportunity to click away. Please be kind and take care of yourself. We're still keeping it PG/YouTube friendly, but that definitely is in there. So just come back around this tomorrow on Friday. I'll have a nice lighthearted video about Machu Picchu out if you want to check me out still. Alright, we're gonna move on. So this is really largely anecdotal. I am not a solo female traveler. I would never call myself that. I have been with my travel companion Angel for virtually all of my trips abroad, and if I'm not with him, I have been on a trip with a group, either a school group or like just a travel tour group. I can put some resources down below about a group that I've been with before if you wanted to know more about that as far as traveling once you're a post-college adult. So yeah, I am not a solo female traveler, but I have had times every now and again where I am abroad alone, and I just wanted to give some insight from that perspective about an experience I had down in Lima, Peru in 2021. I will probably post one or two other kind of just reality check / safety moment videos like this as it's relevant throughout the timeline of my series, but for today, we're in Lima, Peru, 2021, after I've gotten back from a trip to Machu Picchu. So, like I said, I do have a travel companion named Angel, and he actually lives down there. So, I don't know if it doesn't fully count as solo female travel if you have a friend in that same city. But he was not with me. He wasn't anywhere near me. Probably the fastest he could have possibly gotten to me was an hour away. And I was just kind of doing my own thing because he was already back at his job and I had a few more days left on my trip. So as someone from a landlocked state who had almost never seen the ocean, I wanted to go walk along the beach because Lima is a beachside city. I went walking. I was so proud of myself. I was supposedly staying in my safe zone. Angel had told me to basically stay in Miraflores and a few parts of Barranco if I was going to go out on my own, which was fine because it was such a big city and there was so much going on, and I had tours booked. So when I had my free time in between, I stuck to Miraflores. So I was on this beach in Miraflores, and all of a sudden, this guy approaches me. And over-friendliness can definitely be a red flag, but I had already started letting my guard down because the night before, I had been walking by myself at night. Oh my gosh, I don't even do that, or at the time, I didn't even really do that much in my home country. But I felt comfortable, and I told myself, hey, let's be a little more brave. And it wasn't like night, it was just after dark because down there it gets dark every day around 6:30 or so. So, it's like 7:30 p.m. I'm walking around enjoying the city lights, and these college kids stopped me, and I was just like, at first I thought it was some kind of distraction thing, so I was holding my purse a little closer, probably, obviously. Please don't do that. That was a novice mistake. Be cautious, but don't let them know you're getting your guard up either. But they turned out they just wanted to film a little interview, and I guess they thought it would be interesting to do it with a foreigner. I did get signaled out, but not in any negative way. So that made me start thinking, okay, you know, maybe people are just friendly and I need to chill the F out. So this guy, you know, he's a surfer dude with like super curly hair or whatever. He's like, oh, do you like surfing? Are you enjoying the beach? And I said, oh, I've actually never surfed, because I mean, how would I have surfed when I've been to the beach 2 times in my whole life? um, and he was telling me about how great the waves are in coastal Peru, which is actually very true. There's actually one wave, if I think of it, I'll pop it up here and I will try to put it down in the description, but there's a wave that's protected even a little bit to either the north or south of Lima, because it is such a giant, amazing wave, and surfers come from all over the world to go use it. We weren't there, but they were still very nice Pacific waves. And he was, you know, just really selling me up. He's like, I could give you surf lessons tomorrow if you're still here tomorrow. And I was like, oh my gosh, that would actually be really cool. I already made a point to be like, oh yeah, you know, my friend and me had this trip and I'm just still hanging out a couple more days. I made a point to say my friend was in the city and not really be so specific about the fact that he was that far away. We probably weren't going to see each other again the rest of the time. But anyways, potential red flag 1 was the friendliness, although I feel like that's just so contextual and you have to just get better at reading people. Just start cautious, but don't just be like a total jerk and not talk to anybody either. It's a difficult balance. All right, then red flag number 2 came up because he started talking about pricing. And I speak Spanish, but I speak it with an accent. He spoke only Spanish. And of course, he noticed my accent, and he noticed that I was from the United States. And right out the gate, this man is asking for one, overpriced, and also in the wrong currency. He is asking 50 American dollar bills for the surf lesson that was going to be, you know, 3 hours with a pisco sour and with some ceviche included, which I knew because I had been in Peru long enough and I had a friend who was Peruvian and talked to me about the pricing there. I knew that was ridiculous. And also it was ridiculous in any case to be asking for it in American currency instead of the local currency. But anyways, I told myself, I'm like, okay, I know at this point this is a scam, but I really want to surf, so I'll just do it anyway and pay for this overpriced silliness. I learned a little side note lesson because I didn't have American dollar bills on me. I don't pay for stuff with cash up here in the United States, and I especially wouldn't have them on me for a trip I'm going to a country that doesn't use American dollar bills. But there are some ATMs in Miraflores where you can take out American dollar bills. So I found one and I took out like $50. I didn't even have a swimsuit. I feel like the universe was trying to tell me something, but I didn't listen. I didn't buy a swimsuit either, though. I was just like, oh, you know, they were going to supply me a wetsuit because at the time it wasn't even quite summertime in Peru yet, and it's the Pacific Ocean, which is pretty cold. So I was just like, I'll just wear my regular underwear and bring a change. I get down to the beach that next morning. For some reason, and I do not remember why, I was missing the full payment or something happened. Something happened to where I ended up owing money after the lesson. I'm just bringing it up because it's relevant for later. I pretty much just had my phone and a little plastic bag that I was going to put, you know, keep my clothes in when I got into the wetsuit. And then another red flag popped up. Well, not even quite a red flag, just something to be cautious about if you're any kind of solo traveler, even a male. I was like, well, where do I put my stuff? And to be honest, I'm still searching for an answer to that question if I'm on the beach wanting to like enjoy myself and everything. I would love to hear about your advice and tips and everything if you live somewhere where you have to be careful with your stuff when you go to swim, or if you've been places like that. Because for me, Angel and I are always together and we do get in the water together, but we've always either been places where we felt safe enough to leave our things and just, you know, be looking back at it every now and again, or we were somewhere where we were staying somewhere so close to the beach that we were able to leave all our things inside behind a locked door and go straight down to the beach. So yes, please include those tips down below if you have some. So I get there and I'm like, oh my gosh, where am I gonna put my stuff? And he says, the instructor, we're gonna start calling him John. I don't know how much I'm actually gonna use his name, but we'll just call him John for if I need to say his name. He's like, oh, no, I have this friend with a little food shack, and you can keep it in there with her, and she's going to be staying at the food shack. And I wasn't super comfortable with that, but also I realized that my options were pretty much accept the offer or go home, because I knew the stuff wasn't going to be there when I got back to the shore if I just tried to leave it out somewhere because it's Lima. Anyways, I was like, you know what, I'm just going to risk it. And I left my phone and everything in there with the guy's friend. And then it was time to surf. And the surf portion was actually really great. I have no real complaints. He is a pretty good, or was a pretty good surf instructor. And it was fun because, we were GoProing some of it. But because it was a freaking scam, I didn't get any of the GoPro videos, and it does make me kind of uncomfortable knowing they have those videos, because I felt kind of like everyone feels kind of exposed in a wetsuit, so that's kind of gross. But anyways, nothing I can do about that now. And this is where tip/red flag number 3 kind of comes in, because my hostel Periwana, which I very much liked, I will put their link in the description below because they're great. But the one thing I don't like is that they give you a wristband to identify, that you're someone renting a room out of there. And it has Periwana written all over it. It's very bright and obvious. And I think that part of the reason is because they do club stuff on the weekends, so that way they know, who the actual guests are and who are people just up there at the bar for club times. But don't be having something on you all day where anybody walking by you or looking at your wrist can tell where you're staying. Don't do that as any traveler, but especially not a woman traveling alone. And I totally had that wristband on. Now if I get wristbands like that, I cut them off and keep them somewhere secure and then show them to my hostel at the end of the day when I go back. Do something like that instead, please. But I would, we're swimming, and he noticed my wristband, and he's like, oh, that's the hostel you stay at. And I was just like, oh, shoot. I was like, yeah, that's my hostel. And then he was telling me about other people he had seen from that hostel or whatever. And I was just like, okay, cool. Because he's already starting to give me just a little bit of vibes. Because, I'm already bothered that I know I'm being scammed. But that was all I was bothered about that time. We get out of the water because I had a tour that I needed to get to. So I was like, okay, I guess we'll go ahead and have the pisco and the ceviche now. And I thought that his friend with the food shack was gonna maybe grab the ceviche, or have somehow that ceviche and the pisco was going to be from her. But he's like, no, we're going to a restaurant. And I'm looking around and there's no restaurants. I said, well, what restaurant are we gonna go to? Because I don't see any around here. He's like, oh, there's one over down the way. This is red flag number 4 now. And also general safety stuff that we learn as kids that I feel like sometimes when we're travel contacts, we're just like, because you do have to toss some things out the window in a travel context. Anyways, red flag number 4, getting in the car with people. So he's like, oh no, it's down the way, but my friend has a car. And, it's just his friend. It's not a taxi or anything official, even remotely. And that gave me pause. But I ignored my pause, and I was just like, I am freaking hungry and thirsty. I've been swimming in this ocean for 3 hours, and I have all the salt water in my mouth, which is great for a little bit, and then it just makes you super thirsty. And I really needed to eat, and I knew that if I got back to the hotel, I would not have time to get something else to eat before it was time for my tour, and I probably wouldn't eat until 5 or 6 at night. So I was just like, okay, I guess. So you remember how earlier I said that friendliness can be a red flag, but it's not necessarily. You should just proceed with caution. We'll start calling things like that a yellow flag. So one yellow flag was the friendliness. And then as we're going to the restaurant, another yellow flag pops up, which was that he seemed to know freaking everybody and be on extremely good terms with them, ridiculously so, and be making a point to show how good terms he was with on everybody. Which made me feel like, because I was already starting to feel uncomfortable, and now I don't feel comfortable saying I'm uncomfortable because I feel like I am pretty much alone in all this. So that wasn't great. I was like, if something goes down, I don't feel like anybody's going to have my back because they're all with him, which they may or may not actually have been, but I digress. We got to the restaurant fine. It was in this little strip, But the problem was the strip was actually still basically beachside. It wasn't really towards town, and I had no clue how I would get back up to town from that section. But we get there, and then true red flag number 5 pops up, because like I said, he already seems very friendly with everybody, and like I almost felt like in with something on everybody. And I know that sounds paranoid, but I hadn't been getting that feeling from anybody else. And with him, he just gave me this feeling. Like, as much as Angel, like I talked about in my prior videos, my friend Angel from day one gave me good vibes and just positive energy vibes, he was giving me the opposite, which you cannot always rely on, but please also be listening to your gut. Anyways, in light of all those vibes, the drink comes out and I start to sip it, and I've had pisco before, and I mean, I mildly enjoy it. I'm not a huge hard alcohol person, but it's okay. But then I feel like he's starting to push me to drink it fast and to drink a lot. And anytime somebody is pushing alcohol on you like that, that is a red flag. And it made me even think that, because again, I'm getting a little bit into paranoid mode, I'm like, is something else up with this drink too? Because if you're so friendly with all the restaurant staff and everything, and I'm on my own here, I just, put it down. I was like, I don't like it, and pushed it away and just drank water. This is where another irritating thing came up, and part of it just being a scam, because, he's like, oh yeah, we're going to order this and this and this, and we both ordered a pisco, and I was just like, okay, cool. Well, then the bill comes out, and he hands it to me. And this was all supposed to be included, and he ordered everything. It's not like I said, oh, I want this thing extra, this thing extra. So I'm like, you mean to tell me that I just paid you 50 American dollar bills for a short little lesson on the beach, which was good. It was good. A brief little ride to this restaurant, and now when you previously told me that this was included, you want me to pay for everything. Mind you, he had bought like 2 or 3 extra drinks after the 2 drinks that he drank, because he drank my drink since I didn't drink it, and apparently there was nothing else up with it. But yeah, so that was really irritating, but I didn't really feel at liberty to say no, and I actually didn't even have all the cash to cover that, because you have to remember, this is why I didn't have the money to pay him for the lesson, because he wanted me to pay for the freaking food. And, well, for one, he wanted the lesson payment in dollar bills, and I think that the restaurant very kind of suspiciously also took dollar bills, and ended up having to pay for all this food he ordered that was supposed to be included in the money I had. So then he's like, oh, it's okay, we'll take you back to your hostel so you can pay the rest. This is all getting so sketch right now, and I really should have just peaced out, but I just felt so uncomfortable, and I was worried about how to navigate the situation when I knew that when I stepped outside, I didn't know where to go, and I didn't feel very safe in whatever area we were at. So I was like, well, then I'll just be standing outside, and what if they follow me, or what if something else happens because I'm standing outside with my phone, because I was also being told I was not supposed to be having my phone just out in public if I'm not in a secure location. So I really felt stuck. Because I felt so stuck, I ended up agreeing to get back in the car. We start driving up. I did not know exactly how far we were away by car, because I had walked there, and also we weren't even in the original location anymore. And like I said, the driver is just a random friend of his. He's not an official taxi driver or anything. And now John is drunk, and he started trying to get handsy with me. And, I sit all the way to the other side, because also I don't want to be getting too violently pushing away, because I'm worried about retaliation for that. So I'm just trying to distance and make it very obvious, don't touch me, without being violent about it physically. And I saw his friend looking over in the back seat, and I know he knew everything that was going on. Did not say a word the whole time. I saw it in his eyes, even though, he had a mask on and I couldn't see his whole face. And that's really upsetting, and I'm going to probably remember that for the rest of my life, because it's just frustrating when you're that level of bystander, and I don't know if maybe he said something later, or maybe he still remembers it too, but yeah. Also, John is making all these weird comments about like how Latino and white people's babies would look, and like something about how our babies would look. And I'm like, I don't even know you. You just scammed me for a freaking surf lesson, and I just want to go home now. Um, and I'm getting so uncomfortable, but I have no clue really where we are, because also when I'm trying to have my phone, he will like grab for my phone and be like, "What are you doing? Why are you on your phone?" That's a huge red flag. There's our red flag number 6, when they're saying don't talk to your friends, don't be on your phone. And yeah, like, okay, so I had a guide. I'm sorry, but I do have to do a little side note. So my other guide, who was actually pretty chill, this actress girl who was showing me different areas of town, she told me where I shouldn't have my phone out for my own safety, not to be filming and stuff. But if I ever needed to, if I was like, because I actually had work contacting me at the time, if I was like, hey, I really need to message my boss about this thing, can we find a place for me to pull out my phone? She would help me do that. That's a totally different vibe. Just want to clarify. This is him being like, why are you wanting to talk to anybody? Why are you wanting to have your phone? Um, Almost like you don't want me to be able to talk to anybody. And at this point, I'm seriously considering calling Angel, because he speaks English and this guy doesn't. And I felt like maybe I could, tell him, hey, this is happening. What the crap am I supposed to do? What would keep me from getting in trouble, but also get me out of this situation? Because also, I don't know how any of the laws or anything work there, and what could get me in trouble or not if, I were to be more retaliatory about things, if you know what I'm saying. But then I was thinking, I don't know this guy up in the front seat and how much English he speaks. And also, sometimes people understand more than they're able to speak. So if I do start saying something and they realize what I'm saying, how could that go down? So, I'm just keeping my phone in a death grip between my legs and also in my hand, like just all of my body clutching that phone so hard and trying to stay so far away from this man. But then he's like, we need to stop by my apartment. And I said in like the nicest way I could manage with how uncomfortable I was, no, I need to get to my tour. You need to drop me off first. So then instead, he has the driver pull off to the side of the road. It is 4 p.m. in broad daylight on a city street. And he just starts, jumps out the car and pees on the side of the road, which was really awkward and gross. I'm sorry, but like, find somewhere else. I get that guys pee outside, but maybe don't do it in the middle of a street like that. But that kind of mattered for later, because then within 10 minutes of us getting back in the car, I guess he realized the car ride was almost over and we were about to get into Miraflores, and I would have more resources to get help in Miraflores, basically, towards the more busy downtown area of it anyways. Dude grabs my face and forcibly like kisses me on the cheek, and he was going for like my lips, but I realized what was happening and jerked away. And yeah, I was just like, it made me want to throw up. Because for one, he had just been peeing with that hand, and I didn't want him touching me anyways, and then you're just going to, smack your lips all over me when it's very clear I don't even want you touching me. And I just wanted to scream. I didn't even know what to do. I was like, just, it was one of the worst things ever. But what I ended up doing was, I just kind of kept my head turned like this and didn't even really talk for the rest of the time. And luckily, he was still kind of being like trying to be handsy or whatever and put his head over near me and everything. But that was the worst that happened, very fortunately for me. We pretty shortly after that got to my hostel. I jumped out the car and ran off as soon as I could. And I didn't want to give that stupid man any money. I was so upset. I called Angel so upset, but I was mostly talking in frantic English and like crying and not making full sentences. And I think he genuinely didn't fully understand what was going on. I think he just thought someone was bothering me. And I don't think I ever clearly communicated the whole, I don't want to give this person money. How do I go about doing that without me getting in trouble? So I went back down with the money, because I was worried that he would start saying, oh, that girl up there didn't pay me, and you know, he knows where I live now or where I'm staying for the rest of the night. So that was really uncomfortable. And I just would have did basically throw the money at it and hope that that would make it go away. So I did that, and then they were saying, oh, we'll give you a ride to your tour. And I was like, you know, I didn't say it like this, but absolutely not. I was like, no, that's okay. XYZ thing happened, and now I'm going to do something else. So I went straight back into my hostel after that, and I gave it like a solid 15-20 minutes for them to be away, and not around the corner or anything. And I was just so grateful that I wasn't even staying the night in that hostel. I was supposed to be taking a night flight back to my country. I didn't even want to go on that last tour. That was part of the reason the last tour wasn't really that great for me, because, I mean, I've had negative experiences in the past, but that was one of the ones where I felt the most helpless and scared about what could happen next, because it could have been so much worse. And I mean, we've all heard those horror stories, and luckily it wasn't me, but I mean, what if he had been a little bit more bold, or what if I had accepted all that alcohol? You know, there's so many ways it could have been so much more horrible. But yeah, I mean, that's my story with that. If I was doing awkward smiles or whatever, I'm sorry. It's That's kind of how I deal with uncomfortable things, especially when I'm saying them in front of a camera. I don't like being negative generally, and I tend not just to, you know, not talk about things uncomfortable like that unless it's with people very close with me. But I feel like it's worth putting out there, because yes, solo female travel, especially when you're doing it in the right places and with the right knowledge ahead of yourself, to keep yourself safe, can be this really great, empowering experience, but it can also be dangerous. And I feel like some, not all, proponents of it get a little bit caught up in talking about how safe it can be and how great it can be, and we kind of take for granted these safety tips we need to be talking to people about, and the things that can go wrong and how they go wrong, in the interest of, you know, putting it in a positive light. And that really doesn't serve anybody. It just doesn't. It makes people less safe. This is not me, you know, ragging on Peru or Peruvians. Peru is still my most favorite country. Peruvians are some of my favorite people. I think that they are beautiful. I think that they have a beautiful culture. I love their food. And just like everywhere else in the world, there's a lot of good people there. But there's also not good people. And we need to be doing things to be looking out for ourselves and help others look out for themselves too. So, sorry for the kind of negative tone, and if I was talking fast or nervous or smiling at weird times, but thank you for listening to my story, and I hope it helped you learn and have things to keep in mind for yourself or somebody you care about who likes to do crazy travel things like me. I promise tomorrow's video is going to be a much nicer tone. Maybe not great, any better quality, because I'm trying to do 2 videos at the same time this week, or, you know, 2 videos in 1 week. But we're getting there. We're getting there. Thanks for being along for the journey. I hope you have a great Thursday, and I will be hoping to see you tomorrow, this Friday, for my regularly scheduled video. Bye, and stay safe out there.